Okay, there are really only two ways that this war ends, at least in the short term. The first is that Trump follows through on what his generals are calling sustained pressure, and this starts to look like Gaza, not in the politics, not in the rights and wrongs, just in the physical reality. A country's infrastructure systematically dismantled from the air, power grids, ports, oil refineries, military sites in populated areas. Iran is not Gaza. It is 87 million people, the size of France and Germany combined. The scale of destruction in that scenario is almost incomprehensible. The second is that Trump loses patience. He's already said 4 to 8 weeks war. He's already watching gas prices tick up at home. He gets a win he can sell, some air bases destroyed, Iran's military degraded, a ceasefire he can call a deal, and he calls it, declares victory, moves on. But here's the thing I want to sit with you for the next 12 minutes, and both of those endings lead to the same place, just at very different scales. Oil, Reconstruction, and the question of who gets paid. So Trump's words, the receipts. I'm not going to speculate about Trump's intentions. I do not need to. He told us repeatedly in public, these are his words. To the victor belong the spoils. I always said, take the oil. And that's Trump on multiple occasions, 2011 to 2016, including CBS News referring to Iraq. We go in, we spend $3 trillion, we lose thousands and thousands of lives, and then a continuation. We get nothing. It used to be, to the victor belong the spoils. Trump 2013 on the Iraq War.
We'd go in, we'd win, and then we'd leave. They used to say, to the victor belong the spoils. Well, we'd be the victor that would leave.
They have to pay their bills. We're not going to protect countries that do not pay their bills.
They should at least equalize. I did that with NATO. We were paying and they weren't. We're defending them and we're paying the bills. And I said, nope, unless they asked me, does this mean that if Russia attacks us, you will not defend us? I said, are you paid up? Well, let's say we're not, then I'm not defending you. And the money came pouring in.
Trump on NATO 2024 campaign implemented as policy in 2025. We are going to be taking the oil. Trump referencing Venezuela in 2025. This is not campaign rhetoric that got dropped at the White House door. He charged NATO allies for defense and followed through. He built a transactional relationship with Saudi Arabia where military protection and oil production levels are explicitly linked. He sanctioned Venezuela for years and explicitly discussed oil access as part of any normalized deal.
Referenced boots on the ground earlier. Can you just sort of button this up? Do you envision the U.S. military having a presence in Venezuela as the U.S. runs that?
Well, no, we're going to have a presence in Venezuela as it pertains to oil because we have to have, we're sending our expertise in. So you may need something, not very much. But no, we're going to be taking out a tremendous amount of wealth out of the ground.
Trump sees military power as a product with a price tag. He has now launched the largest American military operation since 2023 against the country he says started it, attacked American soldiers, and threatened the whole region. In his framework, that country has a bill coming. Next, I'll talk about the Russian thread, the detail that changes everything. Before we get to the Iraq template, there is one detail from this war that I do not think has received enough attention, and it changes the picture considerably. On March 9th, 2026, while Operation Epic Fury was already underway, Trump called Vladimir Putin. Within days of that call, Trump lifted sanctions on Russian oil, Lukoil and Rosneft. Russia's two largest energy companies had their sanctions reversed. Treasury Secretary Bezant signalled more reversals were coming. Let me be precise about what this means in energy market terms. The United States is simultaneously bombing Iran, the country with the third largest oil reserve on Earth, taking those reserves offline and lifting sanctions on Russia, allowing Russian oil back into global markets to fill the gap that Iranian oil is now leaving. Russia wins twice. Its oil fills the gap at elevated prices, its sanctions are lifted as reward for a phone call. Meanwhile, Iran's oil looks locked, for now. The question this raises is straightforward. If the end game is Iranian oil flowing into Western markets, why is Russian oil being unblocked at the same time? Who is the deal actually for? Okay, so now I'll look at the Iraq as a template and how it actually works. People sometimes say the Iraq war was about oil as a conspiracy theory. The reality is more specific and more instructive than that. Before 2003, Western oil companies had been locked out of Iraq since 1972 when Saddam Hussein nationalised the industry. After the invasion, BP won the Ramallah supergiant field. Shell won Majnoon. The Iraqi constitution, written under American supervision, guaranteed a major role for foreign investment. The locks came off. But the part that gets less attention is the reconstruction, because the bombs do not just remove a regime, they destroy infrastructure, roads, bridges, power stations, water treatment, refineries, ports, and somebody has to rebuild it, and that someone gets paid. Okay, so if you look at Halliburton, their contract was to restore Iraqi oil, no bid contract, value $7 billion. The connection? Dick Cheney was Halliburton's CEO from 1995 to 2000, and then the vice president who helped authorize the invasion. Halliburton, again, in terms of the total Iraq war contracts, $39.5 billion, the single largest benefactor of the war, and that's from the Center for Public Integrity. Bechtel, infrastructure, reconstruction, value $2.8 billion. Connection, senior figures had prior US government and national security roles. Company, BP, the Ramallah oil field development, value, multi-decade contract. The connection, the first Western access to Ramallah since 1972 nationalization. Company, Shell, the Manjun oil field, value, multi-decade contract. Connection, second largest field in Iraq, also locked since 1972. The contract mechanism matters. Many of these were cost plus. The contractor gets reimbursed every dollar spent plus a percentage profit, 2 to 7% on top of costs. The model rewards spending more, not less. The deconstruction, the reconstruction, the more profit. Nobody stole anything. It was all legal, all contracted, all signed. The oil did not get taken, it got opened up. The infrastructure did not get stolen, it got rebuilt at cost plus rates by the right companies. That is the template. Now, who are the right companies in 2026? Raytheon, Lockheed Martin are the defense contractors currently supplying the munitions being used in Operation Epic Fury. ExxonMobil and Chevron are the American energy majors that have been locked out of Iran since 1979. BP and Shell have a precedent. They got Iraq. These are not random observations. These are the companies that the Iraq template says benefit when the reconstruction phase begins. So next I'm going to talk about the two scenarios. This is where the two endings diverge, but only in scale, not in direction. Scenario A, the duration is 3 to 6 months of sustained strikes. In scenario B, 4 to 8 weeks, Trump's own stated timeline. Infrastructure damage in scenario A, systematic, power, ports, refineries, roads, water, Gaza level destruction at 40 times the population scale. Scenario B, targeted, military strikes, IRGC facilities, some industrial, painful but not civilization level. Reconstruction value in scenario A, 800 billion to 1.5 trillion estimated, comparable to post-World War II Marshall Plan scale. Scenario B, 150 to 400 billion, still enormous, still the same players. Oil access timeline. Scenario A, longer, requires stable successor government to sign the deals. Scenario B, faster, regime under pressure may offer oil access as part of ceasefire terms. Trump framing in scenario A, we built Iran, they owe us, we're going to be compensated. In scenario B, it's phrased as a great deal. Iran agreed to open their energy sector, big win for America. So who benefits first in scenario A? Defense contractors first, Raytheon, Lockheed, then energy majors, ExxonMobil, Chevron, BP, post-stabilization. In scenario B, energy majors first, oil access is the deal sweetener, contractors follow when rebuilding begins. Common destination in scenario A, American energy companies in rooms with a new Iranian government discussing oil access which was locked since 1979. Scenario B, same destination, different route, different timeline. The key insight is in that last row. Both scenarios end with the American energy companies in the room with a new Iranian government discussing oil access that has been locked since 1979. The difference is whether that conversation happens in month 2 or month 18, and whether it is dressed as a ceasefire sweetener or a reconstruction agreement. In the next part, I'll talk about the prize, 209 billion barrels. Let me put a number on screen, just one. That is Iran's proven oil reserve, the third largest on Earth. At current prices, that is approximately 16.7 trillion in the ground, locked off from Western investment for 47 years. And that is before you account for Iran's natural gas. Iran holds the second largest natural gas reserves, 34 trillion cubic meters, but with the Strait of Hormuz disrupted and significant LNG supply offline, the European energy market is desperately looking for alternatives. Iran's gas, if unlocked, is one of the most significant energy prizes on Earth. Okay, so Venezuela, 303 billion barrels of oil reserves, nationalized 1976, sanctions ongoing, Trump explicitly discussed oil for normalization in 2025. Saudi Arabia, 267 billion barrels of oil, always open, the working model, military protection exchange for oil cooperation. Iran, 209 billion barrels of oil, the prize. Locked out since 1979, 47 years of accumulated Western exclusion, now in the crosshairs. Iraq, 145 billion barrels of oil, and that's the precedent. Locked 1972 to 2003, after the invasion, BP got Ramallah, Shell got Manjun. The UAE, 113 billion barrels of oil, always open, always in Western orbit. The Iraq comparison is the one that should focus your attention. Iraq had 145 billion barrels locked off since 1972. After the 2003 invasion, BP and Shell got the two largest fields. Iran has 209 billion barrels locked off since 1979. The potential scale is larger and the precedent is already set. Next, I'll talk about the Reconstruction, how oil gets dressed up. This is the part I want you to understand, because this is where the Iraq lessons is most directly applicable. Nobody's going to announce we are taking Iran's oil. That's not how it works. That is never how it works. What happens instead is this. A new Iranian government, whether that emerges in 6 weeks or 2 years, will need investment to function. Iran's economy has been under sanctions for decades. If the military campaign runs long and the infrastructure gets destroyed, they will need hundreds of $billions in reconstruction capital. That capital has to come from somewhere. The conditions attached to that capital, the investment firms, the concessions, the product sharing agreements, that is where oil access lives. It is dressed as economic development, it is structured as investment agreements, it is also entirely legal. The IMF and World Bank will offer reconstruction loans. Those loans will come with conditions. Watch the conditions. Specifically watch whether any condition involves opening the energy sector to foreign investment. That is the sentence that unlocks 16.7 trillion. It will not be on the front page. It will be in paragraph 47 of a structural adjustment framework. And then add the Russian thread on top of this, and the picture gets even more complex. Russian oil is back in global markets, filling the gap left by Iranian oil going offline. Russia benefits from elevated prices while the war continues. The longer the war runs, the more Russia earns. The more Iran is destroyed, the more reconstruction capital is needed. The more reconstruction capital flows in, the more conditions get attached. Everybody in this picture except the Iranian people has a financial incentive for this to continue. The bombs create the need creates the leverage creates the deal is dressed as investment to reconstruction, but at the bottom of it, under all the legal language and press release, is 209 billion barrels of oil that have been locked up for 47 years and a Russian energy sector that is making money every day the war continues. So in closing, I want to be honest with you about what this video is and is not. The pattern is real, Iraq is documented, Venezuela is documented, the Saudi model is documented, Trump's own words are documented, the Russian sanctions reversal is documented, the oil reserve figures are OPEC data, the Iraq contracting figures are from the Center for Public Integrity. That part is not speculation. What I cannot tell you is whether it plays out this way for Iran. There are real reasons it might not. Iran's governance is deeply institutionalized. It is not built around one man the way that Saddam was. Regime change in Iran could mean years of instability and fracture, and no Western company wants to invest in a country that may be in civil war. Trump might take an early win and walk away before the reconstruction phase even begins. Gas prices at home might force a political pivot before any oil deal gets structured. The Russian thread might mean the price is shared or delayed. I don't know. Here is what I would ask you to watch for. When, if a successor government emerges in Tehran, watch who takes the first meetings. Watch whether American energy companies appear in those rooms. Watch whether the IMF and World Bank conditions on any reconstruction loans include language about opening the energy sector to foreign investment. Watch whether Trump frames any deal in terms of Iran repaying America or compensating American companies. Watch the contracts. If those things happen, we do the full script with receipts. If they do not, I was wrong and I'll say so. That is how the channel works. The end game is coming. We just do not know yet how big the bill is going to be. If you found this useful, please like and subscribe. It genuinely helps the channel reach people who need to see this material. And if you think somebody else should watch it, share it. The algorithm rewards the first hour. So if you're watching this fresh, now is the time.